everybody? Welcome to another episode of EETV, where I try to bring you everything in entertainment. Let's talk more about Power Rangers, shall we? This one is entitled, Power Rangers Reboot and Beyond. Some things we might see in the reboot. And if you remember, I posted a poll about approximately 4 days ago asking, should the Power Rangers reboot be either its own thing, which got 16%, a mixture of both, which got 30%, and the majority picked a different dimension, which is 54%. And I do agree with the majority that Hasbro should make the Power Rangers reboot a different dimension. And this is how it should start. In my opinion, just my opinion, they could get the actor that played Zato, Russell Curry, and he's looking in through the different world through the window as a Morphin Master. And of course, if they can't get him, they can just have him in his Morphin Master form. And he could be looking in through the different dimension. And that way you can see it's connected. You see why it's connected, but how it's its own thing. And that's how it can start off. Now, remember, this is smart because it's Cosmic Fury was left open-ended, and if things don't work out, they have a couple renditions they could do. Now, these are just some things that came to mind. You got Tokoger, or what everybody started calling in America the Power Rangers because it had the train motif. Zoonger. They could also do Lupin Ranger versus Panther Ranger, Kidder Major, Zenkaiger, Dawn Brothers, King Olger, or Boon Boomger, which is the new Sentai series coming out in 2024. Those are just some things that could be adapted, but this is, once again, if the reboot doesn't do well. In my opinion, I think they're leaving it open-ended because if the reboot doesn't do well, then they could go back to adapting Sentai series, or maybe loosely adapting Sentai series, but kind of doing their own thing just in case the reboot doesn't do well. But we'll see how that goes. So let's get on with what I think might happen. Now, like I said before, I think they're going towards a little bit of an older audience. And if they do, we already know this, In Whistle is heading this thing, and Tommy is supposed to be the leader. Tommy Oliver is supposed to be a leader, which is something new. Well, not new, but old, because remember, Jason Lee Scott was the leader. But remember, in the original Mighty Morphin series, Tommy was turned evil by Rita Repulsa. Now, what if one of two things would happen with this? In the reboot, what if Tommy Oliver goes too far protecting people, and they kind of loosely adapt what they were trying to do back before they decided to do Power Rangers Ninja Storm, right? And they start doing Power Rangers Hexagon, and then the Green Ranger separates from the rest of the team and starts working with the government, and then he helps them adapt new powers, so the soldiers would be kind of like lesser Power Rangers, but not as strong, and they go about opposing the Power Rangers because he wants to help protect people, maybe because of a traumatic event, and maybe some civilians got hurt, or maybe because the government got to his family. Or another thing that could happen, Tommy becomes corrupt, and they start loosely adapting like they did in the comics, and he becomes like this dimension's version of Lord Draken. I mean, what do you think about those two things? But I'll tell you about this one. If they do loosely adapt, like Tommy Oliver becomes this dimension's version of Lord Draken, they could also have the Time Force Rangers come back in time to try to stop him before he does any evil doing. And then if they do that, then you have a scenario where you have something like Lupin Ranger versus Panther Ranger, but you have this new reboot Mighty Morphin team versus the new rebooted Time Force team, because they're trying to stop Tommy Oliver before it becomes Lord Draken. I mean, that's something to throw out there. I mean, that would be interesting to see right there. And you're kind of combining the new and the old, but you're doing it in your own way. One other thing that we did find out that you should all know as Power Ranger fans, the reboot will have its own original villains, which is good because then they're not limited to having the villains act like the villains. Like, I'll just use for an example Lord Zed, since because he was used as the major villain in Cosmic Fury. If you have Lord Zed, even though it's a reboot, you expect Lord Zed to do some Lord Zed things, even though this is a new reboot, a new dimension. If they're using all new villains, then the sky's the limit, you know? And I think that it was a smart idea to have new villains, so that way you don't have to borrow costumes. You're making everything in-house, and you can make the story as good as you want it to be with no further problems, and I think that is a good thing. Now, another thing that came to mind is how will the homages to all the previous actors and actresses look? I think it's a good idea. One idea that I did have focuses on Kat. Now, Kat, what if, and now me personally, I always wanted the Power Ranger allies to do more than just be there as moral support and the power of friendship. Now, I'm gonna throw this out there. What if that to play homage to Kat's character, they have Kat be like the woman in the chair, helping Billy out with the technical things, and she is like feeding information back to the government because she's a government agent, or maybe she's feeding information back to the villains and she's not necessarily a ranger, but you have someone that's close enough to the action, what's going on, and could feed information without getting caught. I mean, that's a good idea. And if she's being empowered by the villains, then they can have her shapeshift like Kat's character was able to turn into a cat. I mean, that could be a homage call. I mean, we're just throwing it out there. Or if they're not going that route, if they're going more so the evil government route, then they could just have her call sign be Kat. And that way you have homage to the Catherine Sutherland, and, you know, you're going forward and doing something new. That's something to speculate about. Now, the next thing that came up into my mind is if they go the evil government route, or if Tommy becomes corrupt and he has to split out on his own, what if then, just like how Tommy became the leader later on, what if Jason Lee Scott becomes the leader later on? That's interesting to see. And also, along with going there with that, we may also have something going on along with this. And what I mean by something going along with this, what if they have the reboot and any specials run opposite seasons of one another? Like, they'll run the reboot, and then after the reboot finishes all its episodes for the season, then Hasbro can maybe run some specials, and the specials can show what different Ranger teams, what they were up to during the events of Cosmic Fury. And it could kind of fill in the gap, since we didn't get everything that we were supposed to get with Cosmic Fury. But that's just throwing it out there. I mean, that would be good. Now continuing with this and getting back on track with the reboot, what would you like to see? Would you like to see the team be high schoolers again? Would you rather them be university students, or would you rather them start in high school and then progress afterwards? Or would you rather it be like in certain renditions of Sentai and have a mixture of both? And the thing that comes to mind when I mentioned that last one, the latter, is Kira Major, because Kira Major, they had such a diverse team. The leader, he was a high school student. And then I can't remember all the names because I haven't watched the series in a while, since it first premiered back in 2020. But I remember the Red Ranger, he was a high school student. The Blue Ranger was a professional actor, a very popular actor in that world. The Pink Ranger was a physician. surgeon, if I remember correctly, and a very good surgeon. The Green Ranger, she was a university student, track athlete, and a very good one. The Silver Ranger was an adventurer. And I'm trying to remember the other ones. It escapes me at the moment. I think I got everybody there. And if I didn't mention anybody, I guess I forgot. But you see how diverse that team was. You got a high school student, an actor, a physician, a college athlete, an adventurer. Oh yeah, and the Yellow Ranger. Yellow Ranger was a professional gamer, and a professional gamer, all on one team. So would you rather it be something like that, or would you rather them be in high school or university, or they just graduated high school and they're in the summer before they started university or trade school and they figuring out, and that's when they meet Zordon and get their powers? I mean, tell me what you think how it should go. I think they're going to start off in high school. Me personally, I think N Whistle is going to start them off in high school to pay homage to the original series, and then they're going to go forward beyond that. But we'll see. Now, another thing that I think the reboot is going to do is the theme. Now, Mighty Morphin, the original Power Rangers had dinosaurs as a theme. Do you think dinosaurs should also be the theme here? I mean, if it's gearing towards an older crowd, do you think it should be a mixture of different animals that might be related? And I can tell you the truth, I don't know what theme they should use, to be honest with you. They might just go with the Mighty Morphin. So, for nostalgia purposes, to get you interested, and then maybe change everything later on, maybe if they use the Zeo powers. But the thing that they should do is, when whatever animals or dinosaurs or whatever they're going to use, maybe they should use the same thing like they did with the Ninjetti powers. And what I mean by that is, whatever animal each ranger is assigned should be reflected upon their personality, because it'll help personalize it and get more people interested. He is this kind of ranger because, Zach, displays courage and bravery and always and being selfless. So I think something like that, just to further the mythos. I mean, they've done that in the original series, but I think they should go a little bit deeper into it, because the original series didn't. They kind of just did it, like Zordon kind of did it, and they had to do it because it was the first episode, and they were showing each ranger, and then you're chosen to be this ranger because you exhibit this and that. They should just go a little bit deeper into that, and how their characteristics play into their strengths and manifest the powers that they're able to utilize. I think that's how it should go. And to wrap everything up, I got one more thing to see. What do you guys think about this? Now, collateral damage. We've seen it in all of the Sentai. We've seen it in all the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. When the Zord battle come out, collateral damage is all over the place, but Angel Grove seems to be fine in the next episode. I think that should be addressed in this series. Now, how should it be addressed? They could either do a couple of options. It could start off small and it gets progressively worse to the point where, people might have to move out of Angel Grove because it's no longer inhabitable because of the Zord battles. Or maybe Zordon, helping with Billy's guidance, or Billy asking Zordon to use the tech for this purposes, can create some kind of droids that'll go and help repair the city after a Zord battle. Because the one other thing I can think of is how they did and I forget what series it was, but how like some people will explain it away by having a field be put up and then they battle inside the field so there's no collateral damage. That's been done before. No, I think the collateral damage should play a big factor and maybe like the Rangers are able to stop it somewhat, but then it gets worse over time. I think it definitely should be addressed, and not just the collateral damage. Just like I said in my previous video, when we had Kamen Rider Kuga, or is the government or law enforcement going to set up alerts when the evil people attack? I can't even say, I was about to say putties, but I can't say putties because they're going with new villains and all. But what do you think about all this? It being a different dimension, so it can basically cover its bases. But do you also think they should run the specials opposite of the reboot so we can see what the older teams did? Or do you remember that old the Sentai special, Super Sentai Strongest Battle? Remember that crossover series where they had that tournament between a bunch of the old Sentai teams? What if they do something like that, but actually put a decent storyline behind it? Maybe it describing what was going on right before Lord Zed, or as soon as Lord Zed came back, filling in gaps of between Power Rangers Once and Always in the beginning of Cosmic Fury, and then some of the events of Cosmic Fury. I mean, that would be interesting to see right there. If you had, just like they had Adam Park lead that Mixed Ranger team, they can do the same thing with the Mixed Ranger team, but have it with the actors or actresses that are willing to come back and have them focus on certain things, and that way we get all our nostalgia our nostalgia feels on, and then it can fill in the gaps, and then all the older fans will be satisfied, and then we can ride off into the sunset and then enjoy the rest of the reboot. I mean, tell me what you think about that. And I enjoy putting that poll out there, and thank you for answering that poll, everybody. But I do agree with you that the new Power Rangers reboot should be of a different dimension, just tying it together. And in case if it doesn't kick off, then they can always go back to Sentai adaptations. And I have one more question. Do you think that if they do go back to doing Sentai adaptations, would it be best to them to stick to what they were doing before, or loosely based a script around just what they have to offer? Like they'll have the suits, but have the Rangers do something completely different. I mean, tell me what you think about this. Like, share, and subscribe if you feel like it. I'll see you in the next one. Take care, everybody.